People gather for a number of reasons: festivals, parades, family gatherings, and religious services. A lot of times, the gathering happens in the same place on a regular schedule, and that can give people a sense of security, believing that that place is safe. Sometimes, though, the bough breaks and everyone comes tumbling down. Towards the end of 1623, a service was being held at Hunsdon House, where hundreds gathered to be led by Robert Drury and William Whittingham. As Robert spoke, the sound of splitting wood rang out, and before anyone had time to react, the floor below them gave out and fell to the room below. Almost 100 people lost their lives that day. In the aftermath of the tragedy, some began to wonder whether a higher power was trying to send a message to oppose Roman Catholicism. The reality, however, was far less extraordinary. Hunsdon House was located in Blackfriars, London, and was the residence of the French ambassador. Hunsdon House derived its name from Queen Elizabeth's favorite cousin, the Lord Chamberlain Henry Carey, 1st Baron Hunsdon, and was at the time occupied by Count de Tillier, the French ambassador. Due to it being used to house the ambassador, it held a sort of diplomatic immunity. That meant that in a time when practicing Roman Catholicism was not allowed in England, individuals who followed the Roman Catholic Church were able to attend Mass and other services at Hunsdon House without fear of persecution. On October 26, 1623, 300-odd worshippers had assembled in a long garret on the third and uppermost story of the building for a Sunday service led by Robert Drury and William Whittingham. The room they gathered into was packed, and they squeezed in until there was little space that remained. It wasn't long into the sermon that the great noise was heard as the main wooden support beam used to prop up that floor snapped. Suddenly, the floor that hundreds had just been standing on moments before dropped to the floor below. The weight of the crowd landing on the next floor led that to break too before they settled onto the first floor level. Not all of the 300 people were standing over the section that collapsed, with the worshippers who had been standing in the less populated segment surviving the catastrophe. Once the dust had cleared, around 95 people lost their lives that day, which included Robert Drury and William Whittingham. Due to the religious conflict at the time, the Bishop of London refused to bury the bodies, so many of them were laid to rest in great pits at Hunsdon House. A contemporary pamphleteer who visited the ruins and wrote fresh from the first outburst of sympathy said, quote, "What ear without tingling can bear the doleful and confused cries of such a troop of men, women, and children, all falling suddenly in the same pit and apprehending with one horror the same ruin? What eye can behold without inundation of tears such a spectacle of men overwhelmed with breaches of mighty timber, buried in rubbish and smothered with dust? What heart without evaporating in sighs can ponder the burden of deepest sorrows and lamentations of parents, children, husbands, wives, kinsmen, friends, for their dearest pledges and chiefest comforts? This world all bereft and swept away with one blast of the same dismal tempest." Many of those who were pulled from the rubble died a few hours after their extrication. In the front courtyard, by the French ambassador's house, a huge grave, 18 feet long and 12 feet wide, or 5.5 by 3.5 meters, was dug and 44 corpses piled into it. In another pit in the ambassador's garden, they buried 15 more. Others were interred at St. Andrew's, St. Bride's, and Blackfriars churches. As the news spread in the following weeks of what had happened, some people claimed this was a clear sign from God to oppose Catholics. Some sources even suggest that those who survived the incident were met with animosity instead of the sympathy they deserved. Looking back on the tragedy now, though, it's something we can use to remember that, despite the desire to participate in a gathering, no matter what the reason, it's important to recognize the limitations of the location and utilize a maximum occupancy, hopefully saving many lives in the future. Thanks for letting us tell you this sinister story. If you enjoyed it, subscribe on whatever platform you're on, and hit like, rate it, or leave a comment. Join us next week when we'll take you somewhere sinister.